Hello and welcome to this week's video on My Hero Academia, not the video that I had planned to do, but more on that in a moment. This week I'm going to be reviewing the OVA titled Depature. We kick off this review, as I always do with these reviews, by talking about the positives and the headline positives. All the big things I'll be discussing over the course of this video. I think the animation here is fun and characterful, the humour is decent, such as I could understand it, and it had a very cheerful flavour to it. Now, before we get into this video too far, I've just got to say, you've got to do the like, favourite, subscribe stuff, because YouTube, as you're well aware from far bigger YouTubers, is being very, very weird. So, by all means, if you like this video, show your support. The new season of My Hero Academia starts next week, so if you're interested in that kind of stuff, we'll be discussing that kind of stuff in greater detail, as well as other series, which I may just announcing as we go forward. Secondly, like I just said, this is not the video that I had originally intended to do. I intended to do a start of a series of what-ifs based on Stain, specifically what would have happened if someone other than Shoto Todoroki had shown up to help Tenya and Midoriya fight off Stain in that moment. Needless to say, that whole video turned into something far bigger than I was expecting. Even if I was just going to do it as a lightning round, we're looking at a video that could quite easily have been an hour plus, and even breaking it down to my usual like 15-20 minute long video, that's still an amount of work I just don't have the time to do this week due to commitments with other things. So here I am doing a review of an OVA that is less than the length of the standard anime intro sequence. And thirdly, last thing before we get into the review, I couldn't get my hands on a proper copy of the OVA. The only version that I could find of this was an Italian fan dub which had no subtitles, not even YouTube auto-generated, auto-translated ones. So I'm not 100% clear of what was said. I'm going off hunches and synopses, some summaries from other sources, but hey, without the Italian fans, this video wouldn't be happening and I would be panicking trying to find something to do. So thank you very much, Italie 12 points. But this, with all that said, this is an OVA that was released for the movie World Heroes Mission. I'm not sure if this got a more general release in Japan. I know that because of how short it is, you know, it's not like it was going to be a dedicated episode, but it could have been a brief little aside, a little sketch thing on one of their programming blocks, I don't know. Or if it was just a DVD extra thing, as it is now. But regardless, this is an adaptation of a special promotional manga episode, which was created, as you would expect, to promote the upcoming movie. I will admit that there was a part of me that was watching this wondering if this was some kind of deleted scene, because the quality of the animation here is very much in keeping with the quality of the movie World Heroes Mission. So maybe it was done by the same animation team, maybe it was supposed to be part of that movie that was cut out, but regardless, this is a very, very short, nearly 3-minute long animation when Midoriya, Bakugo, Todoroki and his father are waiting for their flight. Midoriya is seemingly worried about flying or something due to the upcoming mission. Again, not really 100% sure. Shoto advises him how to deal with that fear. It's the whole thing of, oh, putting the thing in your hand and then eating it and the problem's gone away, or whatever the trope is, Japanese trope for dealing with all of that. Bakugo says something the same, but angrily, because it's Bakugo and that's what he does, particularly at this kind of part in the story. I'm guessing that he's just very stressed due to how much Midoriya is wittering, more so than him being scared of flying himself. But I don't know, maybe he has a fear of flying. I mean, I don't think that's the case, given what he can do with his quirk and use his quirk for flying, but maybe he does. Maybe every time he starts launching himself, it's like, well, I'm gonna get you losers. Oh no, I've made a mistake! I don't know, but this whole scene is just very fun and charming, and it's the kind of banter and back and forth that I wish the main series had more at this point in the story. I mean, I get why we don't get it at this part in the story, because of everything that's happening at that particular moment. Likewise, I get why this wasn't folded into into the main series as some kind of filler episode or bonus scene somewhere along the lines. I mean, there's a good chance that had they done that, had they had a filler episode in the middle of that particular season, while I think the fans probably would have rioted. We interrupt your regularly scheduled parade of misery for a little sunshine and banter to stop Season 6 being a totally drab affair. Look, I like that season, but holy balls was I done with it by the time it was over. I mean, it's the same kind of way that was done with the most recent series of Jujutsu Kaisen. Like, by the end of it, it was such a parade of utter misery. It's just like, yeah, I think I need time to take away from this thing. Hell, even like I said in my big season review a couple of years back when we did season 6, there was a part of me that had I not been doing this as a video series, I probably would have given up with it. But hey, that's a discussion for a whole other video. And yeah, I understand why this wasn't a thing in the main series, because narratively it wouldn't have fit even if they wanted to. Like, even though all the movies are canon to some degree or another, they fit into the series in very odd ways. Like, I don't know the exact point where they're supposed to come in, and because of the events in this series, they can happen over the course of several hours. It can have several episodes, and it's only like a 15-minute period in real time in this universe. So yeah, maybe after all this said and done, they probably did have an afternoon or so where they could go off to a different country to fight other villains, but yeah, it's very odd pacing-wise, and narratively, like I say, it's not something you could easily fit in. Well, narratively, yes, you wouldn't be able to, because it's a case of, hang on a minute, big bad guys, we need to go off and go somewhere else. Like, it probably did happen like a day or so after, but, you know, we're starting to get a little bit distracted here. The humour in this one works fantastically well for me, because it's one that works off the characters. It plays off them very well, and it's this kind of thing that always made this series very compelling for me to watch. This has always been a strength of My Hero Academia, and it's something I really wish they lent into more, especially given how underdeveloped some key characters are, and addition at this point in the series, though that's a rant up, but it may well come into play in the not too distant future, because I know that it was certainly a feature in that what if video that hasn't been made yet. But regardless, one of the things, like I say, that I really do like My Hero Academia is how much of it is character based, and we have decently strong characters for what they are, and a lot of the best humour builds off of that. It plays off their character quirks and who they are as individuals, and that's what we end up getting in this OVA. Yes, it's very typical standard stuff with these characters. It's a little bit one note here and there, but it's still fun for what it is. Our cast for this OVA are nervous to one degree or another. No one wants to sit with Endeavour. I'm guessing that the seating arrangement is the big thing that's pissing everyone off, but rather than doing the grown-up thing of just swapping tickets around, they just argue about it until Hawk shows up in the ugliest coat I've seen in a TV series in a bloody long time, at least not this side of a bloody police procedural from the UK, and he just swaps tickets around, everyone's happy and done. It is straightforward, it is simple, it is a vehicle for light banter, gags, a little bit of fun times with our characters. It does it all very well, thumbs up. And for something that was just ultimately meant as a tease for an upcoming movie and then thereafter a bonus feature in a DVD, it all does it in very good quality. The animation, like I say, is very light and bright. It is certainly a step above the anime at this particular point in question, and feels as though it was something that was done as for the series itself, or rather the movie itself, or at least by that same team. Now, granted, I am held back by talking about a lot of this due to the fact that so much of it ultimately goes over my head, because I'm watching an Italian fan interpretation of Japanese, and YouTube just didn't want to help with all of that. There was no auto-translation, not a thing. I'm just sat there trying to figure out what the hell's going on, just reading the characters themselves and how they're acting. Thankfully, it is visual enough that I was able to get a good feel of what's really going on here, and of course there are summaries out here, there, and everywhere to it. I will try and get a physical copy of the DVD at some point in the future so I can see it effectively. That's not going to mean a re-review, but at the very least I'll get a better grasp of what's going on. And I will just say, all credit to the fan voice actors in this. They did a great job, so they deserve all the credit that they can get. I have no idea what the fuck they were saying, but they said it very well. They played into the characters in a way that I think is decent. I have a very love-hate relationship with the voice acting for the English dub. I think that pound for pound, maybe the voice acting in the original Japanese version is better, and I kind of feel the reverse for the dub of Vigilantes, though that's a discussion for another time and something I might have to meditate on with a proper watch through of both. But still, this is an episode an OVA which there is a part of me that does debate whether or not it should have been in the movie. I mean, I don't think it should have been this way to start things off. I think it would have worked fine as a flashback. That would have been neat. You could easily have had a scene where Midoriya and Rhodey Soul are talking like they do in the movie, and they start talking about friends and the people that are weird. And you could easily just have a flashback bit of what happened with Midoriya and his friends before it. Like, Midoriya talks about, oh no, my friends are trustworthy, you can rely on them. And he then tells his story, and Rhodey thinks he's out of his mind for thinking these people are competent. But then they come along and save the day, and now Rhodey's passed to swallow his pride, so to speak. But still, it works for me. Works for me, it's very good. It is a very cheerful aside, and is a nice little tonic for the tone of the series around the time period that this was supposed to come out. And it is a nice little bit of sunshine ahead of what is a slightly darker movie than normal coming thereafter. With that said, let us get to the negatives. This is going to be a short review, but hey, it's a very short OVA to begin with. I have two issues with it, really. The first of all is that I think that this one was so short that it was almost pointless. Yes, this is an adaptation of a very, very, very short little manga special, but it's so short that I suppose in a certain point of view we're kind of stretching the definition of what counts as an OVA. And the second issue is that I have with it is that, well, quite honestly, all the OVAs I've watched so far, there's an argument that could be made that each one of them probably could and should have been an episode in the main series. Save Rescue Training is the one that I come back to the most, because that feels like the one that definitely should have been an episode in the main series, but wasn't. The Hero League baseball thing is a fine filler episode and probably could have been in the series as well. Timeline notwithstanding, but still probably the kind of things that you could do. But this is probably the only one thus far that I've seen that just doesn't have anything to it that really says to me this should have been an episode. Maybe part of another episode, but like I say, it's very difficult to think of a moment in the series where you could have done this without it feeling very odd, given everything else that's happening alongside it. Like, we're at a very different time where... Actually, no, come to think about it, looking back at it, you could have had... No, wait, you couldn't have done, because I was going to say, well, you do have the episode where the Blue Man Group villain says he's, yes, everything's going according to plan. Moment in the little special episode they get with Froppy and that, so you probably could have had it there, but no, you couldn't, because then the implication then is immediately now our heroes are going off to deal with that. I don't know. There's probably is a way you could have fit it into the main series, but even then, I don't think it's really worthwhile. Almost every other OVA, there's an argument to be made that it could have been its own thing. The All Might Rising thing could have been an entire episode. It could have been an entire series or mini-series for that matter. But this, it's cute, it's fun, but it's kind of pointless. It's so short, it's pointless. There's not much really of a reason to watch this other than just... timeline-wise, I suppose if you were to make some kind of mega continuity with all the OVAs putting in their place approximately in the anime and all the movies folded in, then maybe you can make an argument for that, but otherwise, this is a thing that I think is more for these super fans than necessarily a compelling or important watch. With that said, let us get to the overview and say that this is a fun, though not essential, inclusion into the series. Like, as I say, it's fun. There's a lot to enjoy here. Maybe you watch it before you watch the movie, but maybe you do that before, maybe you do that after you've already seen it, or if you're already, I don't know. Like, I'm sure there's an argument that can be made to argue this is important, this is essential, and this is a much-watched thing. For me, that's hard. I don't want to sound like I'm ragging on it, though, because it is a lot of fun for what it is. I do think that this is something that is a bit of a hard sell, but I'm sure that there is some way on earth that you could easily watch this and then go into the movie without you feeling totally out of place, or just suspending your disbelief, or just picking the moment where you go into this one. I really don't know, but in any case, it is a fine OVA for what it is. I was expecting a little bit more, though. With all that said, however, this would be the moment of going to Comment Corner. However, this is an OVA, and anything I would say about now would be odd, because maybe you're watching this, you know, you're following this along according to the canon, according to the continuity, and I don't want to say anything that might give away spoilers for future seasons, and any comments I have are from vigilantes, so, yeah, with all that said and done, there's not going to be comment There's not going to be a comment corner for this week's video because there's no real much point of it, but I will ask you to like, subscribe, click the bell and do all YouTube stuff that YouTube wants you to do, because YouTube is an increasingly scary place for small content creators. Support your local small content creator today, it will do them a power of good. Next week we'll get into the season proper, providing of course there is no filler episode to kick off that season. How long that season's going to be, who knows? We'll soon find out together. Thank you all for listening, thank you all for watching, and see you next time. Goodbye! Thanks for watching. Be sure to like, favourite, subscribe, click the bell, and do all the YouTubey stuff that YouTube wants you to do. Go on, it'll do me a power of good. Until next time, my friends, goodbye!